Good morning and welcome students and teachers of Fort Pierce Central High School. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are honored to have guests from HCA Florida St. Lucie Hospital who will share valuable insights into career opportunities in the medical field. The presenters are representatives from the only residency training institution on the Treasure Coast and the oldest emergency medical residency within HCA. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed presenters.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. It is our honor and privilege to be able to speak to you folks out here in the audience today, because believe it or not, you will be the healthcare providers that will replace us on this stage. By the time you are done whatever programs you're going to go to, we will probably have been retired or have moved on. So it's an honor and a privilege to speak to you folks this morning. My name is Thomas Matisse. I'm Dr. Matisse. I'm the program. Can you hear me without the mic? Yeah. Okay. That's fine. I'm actually going to, at some point, come down here and get down on the ground level. But Thomas Matisse, Dr. Matisse, I am the program director for the emergency medicine residency at HCA St. Lucie Hospital. We started our program in 2010, and I am the inaugural program director, the only program director so far. And I'm happy to be joined by 3 of our residents and 1 of our core faculty. I'm going to have them eventually introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves and their journey, because all of our journeys are quite dissimilar and distinct. My journey to becoming a physician began when I was in high school, and that's when I really decided that this is what I wanted to do. Back in the day, in order to get into medical school, you mostly had to you had to have one of 3 majors in college, either biology, chemistry, or physics, some hard science like that. So I was a biology major in high school, or in college, and then I got into medical school. I was waitlisted to 1 medical school. I applied to 15, and I got into 1 eventually. And it wasn't until July, in the summer before August, when school started, that I actually found out I was going to be able to attend. So my journey is like that. And then I left medical school and did my residency with plans in medical school to become a gastroenterologist, a stomach doctor, if you will, and a colon doctor. But that changed one day, and I decided after that to become an emergency medicine physician, and that's what landed me here before you today. Nowadays, your major is less important. It doesn't have to be necessarily one of the hard sciences, and admission staff at medical schools are looking for a broader student population with regard to their experience in college. And perhaps with your questions and some of the feedback from our staff up here today, we can dive into that a little bit deeper. Before I go on, though, there's two books that I want to gift to the library here. So, Dr. Robinson, these books are for you to put wherever you think they may best be read by the students that are interested in medicine. But this one is Read This Before Medical School. It's a really deep dive into the nuts and bolts of how to get into medical school and how to thrive in medical school. The second book is Outsmart Your Brain, Why Learning is Hard and How You Can Make It Easier. This is a book that, I've read both of these books. This is a book that I have folded into my curriculum, my instruction of our residents. It's an invaluable book on how to approach learning, because you really do need to learn, and you need to perform in high school and college, and then ultimately medical school, and then residency. So, Dr. Robinson, these books are for you and your students. All right, does anyone have pens and pencils and paper? If you do, I want you to take them out right now, and I'm going to have you write down 2 things that I want you to two messages I want you to take away from my part of this presentation. And if you have a phone, if phones are allowed on campus, you can type this into your phone. But there's two little quotes. The first one is my success equation. I want you all to write this down. I'm going to tell you what to write. It's up on the screen, but I'm going to verbalize it for you. My residents have heard both of these two sayings said a million times. But the first one is potential plus passion times perseverance will lead you to success in whatever field and domain that you want to pursue. You have to have the potential for it, but you also have to have the passion. But multiplicative is perseverance. There's going to be good days and bad days. You're going to have successes and failures. And if you're doing it right, you're learning more from your failures than your successes. I wanted to be a gastroenterologist, and I was devastated that day when I found out that that wasn't going to happen for me. So what did I have to do? The second, quid factoris est medicus, or quid factoris est. It's loosely Latin, made up by me, but loosely in Latin it means, what are you going to do next? Translated, you always have to have a plan B. Not that you can't pursue your plan A until exhaustion, but sometimes, like my story, my plan A was never going to happen for me. I had plenty of potential, I had plenty of passion, and I worked my tail off. But my plan A turned into plan B, and it was the best day of my life. That failure, that day that I was not successful, and I knew my path was going to have to go somewhere differently, the worst day of my life professionally turned into the best day of my life professionally, because it gave me the career that I have enjoyed for over 30 years. Yes, I am older than everybody else on this stage, but it brought me to you folks today, and as I said, it's an honor and a privilege. So, potential plus passion times perseverance, it's multiplicative, will lead you to success, and quid factoris est. What are you going to do next? Or always have a plan B. And with that, I'm going to turn to Dr. Cardrici. He's going to tell you a little bit about himself and words of wisdom that he has.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Show of hands, who wants to be a physician? No one?
No.
Okay, two. Wait, one.
Two.
Who wants to be a nurse? Okay. Who wants to be a physical therapist? Who wants to be an occupational therapist? So there's many different careers in the medical field, and we represent one portion of it, right? Our jobs, we can't do our jobs without all these other fields as well. And I'm thankful that a lot of you guys want to do this. Now, how I started, let me just go into my background. I'm one of the emergency medicine physicians, one of the attendees, one of the core faculty for these individuals in training right now. I'm born in Brooklyn. I went to Brooklyn College. Before I went to Brooklyn College, I had to make a decision what I was going to do. I was going to be pre-med or not. I like science. I like biology quite a bit. I didn't like math until I took physics in high school, which just opened my mind considerably. I liked to analyze things, look at how things work. I was fascinated by the human body, by the cells. We essentially have cities living within ourselves, right? And then I thought about maybe being a lab technician, someone like just a scientist. I like people though. I like people a lot more than the science itself. And the only thing that put both of those two things together was medicine. So I start my pre-med career. I picked English as my major because I heard that if you choose something that's off topic, off sciences, you're much more interesting. I kind of switched halfway through because at some point I heard I had to read the Canterbury Tales in Old English, and I didn't realize that that was going to help me much in life at all. So I decided to just become English major, and I did a few things. I did some research as well. My biggest thing was tutoring. I was part of like some accelerated medical school program in college. It was by chance I got that. I just stumbled into it. my counselor, like he saw me one day and I was passing through the hallway and he's like, hey, they just opened up this program, early medical education. Try to apply for it. And I got in, you know. And at that point, you had to take a certain number of courses, a certain number of credits. You had to like show them that you could actually be successful in medical school. So I started doing that. At some point, part of that entailed that I had to do other things as well. And tutoring was the best. I love being able to teach high school students things like biology. Just like, I remember this one girl, she was struggling in biology. I was like, what's a protein? Look at your hair. It's made up of a whole bunch of proteins, like little Lego blocks. And your body, your DNA, basically processes information and it turns it into actual matter, like proteins. And all these have functions, like all of us have functions. Anything that you do in life, you basically have a purpose. Like, just like how each cell has a purpose in our body, each and every one of us has a purpose when we walk out of here. Right now, you're a student. That's your occupation. But at some point, you're graduating and you're becoming something different, something for the betterment of society. I wanted to do something that did basically that gave me purpose, because purpose is not just what you accumulate in life. It's not all about that at all. There's plenty of like millionaires, billionaires who are super depressed. It's what you leave behind. And what I'm saying, I'm not talking about inheritance. I'm talking about what you leave behind, the people you touch in life. What other job could you have where you essentially see maybe 60, 70 people a day, both colleagues and patients alike, and you can leave an indelible impression? You know how bad things are contagious, right? If someone like flips someone off driving, you kind of feel that internally, then you like blow up at somebody later on, who knows? But the opposite is true as well. So you have the opportunity to, with a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, to be able to go out there and all those gifts that you were able to, all those God-given gifts, just spread them out, spread them abroad. And little by little, it becomes contagious. And then your neighborhood is better, your city is better, the world becomes better. Okay? So going back to my walk. So I did Brooklyn College for 4 years. I did great there. I loved it. I loved college. It was awesome. It was really good. Then I went to medical school, and oddly enough, medical school, I really enjoyed it, because my gift was just basically sitting in a room and studying for 6 hours. You know, that was basically my gift. And those of you who want to do medicine, the two of you that are out there, that's basically what you have to accustom yourself to. And if you really love it, you're going to put that work in, because that work is really play. You get it? And then the people aspect is it just adds on. So I did 4 years of medical school. At that point, I had to decide midway through, what am I going to do next? And I was looking at all the specialties, and you know, cardiology, all the internal medicine specialties. I loved internal medicine because I loved the people, and I loved how cerebral they were during rounds. That was great. But I also loved the instant gratification that emergency medicine brought with it. So I decided to do both, essentially, emergency and internal medicine. I did like a dual specialty program. Instead of 4 years, it was going to be 5 years. And I was like, you know, it's worth it. And you know, I look back and I look at all these patients I saw, all these people that I learned from, and I'm basically, I'm forever indebted to my training. After that, my wife and I were in New York looking for a house. Everything's really expensive. I was like, you know what? Whatever you want to do. When we leave, if you want to go back to your in-laws in Camden, New Jersey, let's go down there and we'll find a place. And lo and behold, that's what we did. So we went to Jersey for a year. We're living there for a year. My sister-in-law, Gicia Martinez, she was a banker and she moved down to Port St. Lucie. And at that point, like middle of the year, when we were living in Camden, I come down to visit, and this place is like just how it is now. It's like awesome. So I told my boss I was going to come down to Florida, and he worked me like a dog for those 6 months. The more I worked, the more money he made, because apparently I was, you know, like you start out at the job, you kind of like, it's horrible what they do to you. But I came down here, and I was down here, and I live in Vero. That's where I initially worked. And I've been working here in St. Lucie since 2013. And I love the community. That's one of my favorite parts. When people ask me what I love about my job, the patients are front and foremost. Whatever you do in life, make sure you love people. Make sure that's a part of you. If it's not a part of you, change it quick. Because your happiness, it's all determinate on how you love other people and what you do for them. Because true joy comes from self-sacrifice. It's not from what you can accumulate, like I said, it's what you give away. Okay? So I've been working at St. Lucie since 2013. And for the last 2 years, I basically got promoted in the sense where now I'm able to teach not just my patients, but also the residents in a formal didactic manner. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years as well, and it's very fulfilling. I love it. It's one of the best jobs out there, I think. If I can turn some of you from nursing to medicine, great. I understand there's a lot more sacrifice, like a lot more money to pay for medical school, of course, and that could be a very, that could be a high bar. A lot more studying, of course, a lot more time involved. It could affect your family life, whether you decide to get married sooner or later, children, all these things come into play, and I understand that, and you have to make the best choice for yourself. But as it stands right now, we're here, we're ready for questions. If you guys want to ask us anything, we're available, okay? And these guys, I can't wait to hear what they're going to say. They're just like in training right now. And yeah, that's it, okay?
Thanks, Dr. Cardrice. Two things that Dr. Cardrice said that I want to elaborate a little bit more on about my own personal journey. So when I was in high school, I was full of doubt about whether or not I could meet the challenge of the educational process that he described. And so right at senior year, when it was time to decide where I was going to go, I was either going to go to a 4-year university and study biology, or I was going to go to a pharmacy school and become a pharmacist. And my own internal dialogue was that if I don't try to pursue my dream of becoming a doctor, then I'll always have that regret, not knowing if I could have met the challenge. And so that's why I decided to go on the path that I ultimately went on. Now, unlike Dr. Cardrice, I hated medical school. Although I met my wife there, who's a pediatrician, and we were study buddies for 4 years, but I didn't love medical school like he did.
That was awesome.
Where I finally thrived was doing residency, what these folks are doing now, the clinical aspects, and that's when I really knew that I was in the right spot. So my journey is different than his journey, and is really different than these young learners here. So we're going to start with one of our seniors, Dr. Moncriss.
Can you guys hear me?
Speak up. Use your lungs.
Okay.
Just yell at them.
I'll use this. I'm Brittany Moncriss. I'm one of the third years. I'm about to graduate in June, so I'm excited. I was born in Seattle, grew up in Idaho mostly, but kind of was all around the west side. I went to Idaho State University for undergrad. I thought in high school that I was thinking about medicine and thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I wasn't sure. I went into college and there was so many options. I switched my degree probably 10 times. I was going to be a teacher, and then I went and shadowed some teachers at elementary schools, and I was like, I don't want to be around kids all day. I wanted to be a physical therapist for a while. I worked in the PT, as a PT tech for 2 years. I didn't love that. I thought about dental hygiene for a while. I went and shadowed them, and don't like teeth, so. And then I was going to be a PA, actually, because I knew I wanted to be in the medical field some way. So I applied to PA school and actually didn't get in. And so the whole time, though, in the back of my mind, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Just from high school, it's where I kind of thought about it. So I kind of was like, oh, well, PA's about the same, but then I didn't get in, and so I was going to apply again, but then I just, kind of like Dr. Matisse, I knew I would always regret if I didn't actually try and go on to be a doctor. So I applied to med school, and I got in my first year. I got into a few places, actually. I was lucky. And I went to med school in Arkansas. So I was there for 4 years, and then I initially wanted to be a surgeon, changed my mind. I think the themes, I changed my mind a lot. And then I wanted to be an OBGYN, and that did not happen, unfortunately, but kind of like Dr. Matisse, I ended up coming to ER, and I really like it. I think it worked out great for me. And so I signed my first job. I'm going to go in July. I'm going to go to Vegas, work in a big trauma center there. It's supposed to be kind of crazy, so I'm excited. But yeah, I kind of went a really long way around doing it, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm really happy with how it worked out, and I think everything that happened and didn't happen all worked out for a reason. So.
Thank you, Dr. Moncriss. Dr. Lynn?
Hey guys, I'm Andy. I'm one of the ER residents at St. Lucie. A little bit about myself. I was born in South Korea. Immigrated to the U.S. when I was 10 years old. Grew up in Orlando, so I went to high school there. And during high school, like many of you guys, I didn't know really what I wanted to do at that point. Are you guys all seniors here? No? Every year? Okay. Well, it's okay if you don't know yet. And then I went to UCF in Orlando. Thought I'd give law a try, so I was pre-law for 2 years, and then I had a life-changing experience. One of my best friends passed away, so then I kind of made a self-commitment to change my career path and pursue medicine. And then I went to St. George's University for medical school, and as a student, I rotated at this hospital, and I initially wanted to do surgery, and I decided that I wanted to be an ER doctor. So I'm very happy to be here today in front of you guys speaking. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Dr. Ridd. Dr. Williams will round out our crew.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Tim Williams. I'm one of the residents. I'm in the same class as Dr. Rim. Probably not as exciting of a story. I was born actually in Port St. Lucie. Actually, I was born at the hospital that I'm doing my residency at. It's kind of a weird turn of events. I moved around Central America a lot with my parents growing up. We did a lot of business trips, mostly Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras. But we moved back, and I kind of wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I thought I really liked biology and science and stuff like that. Kind of like Dr. Carter-Reach, I thought I'd end up being a professor. So I got a biology degree. I was going to do biotech. Worked for the Department of Agriculture, and I did a bunch of plant science research. And I thought that was fun. But plants don't really talk back or do anything, so kind of boring. Eventually, kind of moved around into a bunch of different careers. I got married. I had a couple kids. And at that point, my wife looked at me and said, "You're just bored. Why don't you actually go do what you talked about at one point doing, which was go to medical school?" Which I did. And it turned out pretty good. I was surprised. It's a lot of work. It was hard. Actually we have 4 kids now, so we had a bunch of kids during training and work and life, and I rotated it here with Dr. Matisse as well. Similar to everybody else, I think everybody likes surgery a lot in medical school because it's cool. It's such a BA. It's so awesome. But most of us found and enjoyed emergency medicine, and so that was very similar in my choice. I ended up feeling a little bit like this. There's something that you feel is out of reach. Maybe it's just too big. Maybe it's I have to go somewhere to go do that. I'd have to get way out of my comfort zone to do it. You will, if you really want it. You really will only do what you really want to do. In other words, if you want it, you'll do it. And sometimes it'll become more accessible, more easy to get to, and other times it'll just require more effort on your end. But you can do it. So, medical school is awesome. Residency is even better.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Also, I've been awake for 18 hours. So.
He worked last night, so kudos to him. I'm going to step down here and open the floor up to your questions for us. But before I do, I want to mention something about Dr. Williams that he forgot to mention. He was a cow farmer.
Oh, yeah.
In his former life, right before he started.
I mean, cowboy.
Yeah.
I mean, cowman.
Those cows you see on 95, they're his. Some of them.
Some of them.
All right, so a brief summary of the educational process. High school, college, medical school, 4 years of each, and then residency, depending on the specialty, between 3, 5, 7, sometimes 11, depending if you go further and further down the rabbit hole of training. So at a minimum, at least 3 years after medical school. All right, so I'm going to come down here, raise your hand if you have any questions, and we'll get them answered for you. chosen, are you happy with the financial reward? Now, before I let them answer that, know that in college, you're paying. In med school, you're paying. When you're a resident, you're actually a professional student. And by that I mean you're getting a salary and benefits and all of that when you're a resident. So, in case you don't know that, you pay for the education until you become a resident, and then the hospital pays you to learn. So they're professional students, professional learners at this point. But anyone want to answer that about the financial remunerations? How much money you make or you're going to make?
Sure, I signed a contract. Who asked that?
Person over here.
Okay. So, yeah, going into medical school, depending on where you go, can be very expensive. I went to a private school, DO school, so it was more expensive. But going into ER, right now we make decent money, you know, kind of average, a little bit less probably, but, you know, it pays the bills. But in a few months I'm going to make quite a bit. How open should I say that? So I signed on with $60,000 for a 3-year sign-on bonus, but I'll probably make about $400,000 to $600,000 a year.
Now, for emergency medicine, it's not a salary per se. Most places, it depends on how many shifts you work. Because most of the time, you're paid by the hour. So, the more shifts you work, the more income you make.
So,
now, medical school, since you brought it up, can cost anywhere. It's very expensive. College is expensive, but medical school is even more expensive. And a lot of the graduates, these residents, when they get out into the real world and start working, Dr. Montress in July, she's going to have, I don't know if particularly her, but it's not unexpected for graduates, residency graduates, to have several $100,000 worth of debt. It's essentially equivalent to a mortgage. But if you look at it as a business expense, that kind of reframes the conversation. Yes, it's very expensive to become a physician, as Dr. Cardrice mentioned. But you'll have the wherewithal to pay off that extra mortgage, if you look at it that way. In the hierarchy of specialties, I would say emergency medicine is probably middle to maybe a little bit higher. More than pediatricians like my wife or internal medicine, but less than brain surgeons, say, or orthopedics, bone surgeons. Any comments?
yeah, so I am in about $400,000 of debt, but I'm going to a trauma center that pays really good, and so if I work more, my plan is to pay everything off in 2 to 3 years, which I think I
She's
can.
going to be working her butt off.
I'll be working my butt off.
To be able to do that, but it is possible.
But it is possible, so.
But as Dr. Cardrice said, it's not about the money, although obviously it is, but it's about the goodwill that you do for your patients and other peers.
Yeah.
And other learners, right?
Yes. There's 3 things that go with any place you work at. You're never going to have all 3 of them. You're going to have a great boss. Thanks, Dr. Great boss. You're going to have great money coming in, or a great work environment, like the patients that you see, the place that you work at. You never have all 3 of them, right? There's always going to be one that's lacking compared to peers in other parts of town, other parts of the city, what have you. I never made money my goal, right? It's a side effect, a good one, right? I don't have to worry about bills. My house is paid off. I have like 5 rental properties that I have, right? So I don't really have to worry about money so much. But that's not what drives me. I'm living like these guys live, right? I drive like a Honda, you know? I don't, if you see me in the store, I'm wearing a t-shirt, maybe some jeans. I'm not like one of those doctors who have what they call golden handcuffs, where they have to make a certain amount every year to pay for their life, you know what I mean? I don't do that. If you reframe it and make it so that what you do serves a purpose greater than money, then money's just it's an afterthought. I don't really focus on like things like, I don't play the stock market, I don't do crazy stuff. And some people do, I'm not gonna knock them on it. But what you have to refrain on is not so much what you're getting in, because if you go into medicine to see what you can get, you're going to be dismayed because there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of self-sacrifice. And you don't want to be burnt out. And there's hiccups along the road. Like, God can bless you with money, but he can bless you with other things as well. If I can, sometimes I tell Matai, one of my bosses, I tell her, hey, listen, give me like 10 shifts this month or 8 shifts this month because I want to spend more time with the family or doing other things that I have, other interests that I have. And that's done. Now I'll make less money because you basically eat what you kill, right? The one shift less means a couple thousand less, you know? But I don't mind that because that's not really why I'm working. It's not the ends, but the means to the ends that gets you to happiness. What you do, who you interact with, who you reach every day when you go to work. But yeah, I don't worry about bills. I don't worry about things like that.
So, to pick up on Dr. Cardrici's comments just a little bit before we get to the next question. I've been at St. Lucie for 28 years working. I worked before we had residents in 2010 for a long time. I started in 1997. So, and I have a great boss. It's a great work environment, and I love the people that I work with and the patients that I take care of. I live by the mantra of, I don't try to be happier than happy. And believe me when I tell you, I could not be happier. I am very happy with the life I have, the people I work with, and there's always a higher paying job and all of that other stuff. But I, like Dr. Cardrice, live way, way, way below my means. He has 5 daughters, and he homeschools all of them. So his life is rich at home as well as at work. Yes? Next question. Anybody? Go ahead. You want to state it? No? Okay. Are they this quiet in class? Probably not. Go ahead. What's your question? Oh, sure. The question is, how does medical school, residency, working affect your mental health and well-being? Let's get that to the residents, because they are at the bottom rung of the professional career. So and they work a lot. They work more than we do. So go ahead, residents. Mental health, well-being.
So mental health, I'm not an expert on this. I guess the biggest thing is having a support system, having family, having people around you. One, having awesome coworkers, family, and honestly working things, having your own way of outlet, your own way of releasing stress on. That's kind of the way that works for me. Oftentimes, just working to find something that you enjoy, even if it's really a miserable situation at the moment, or you feel miserable, or you feel tired, that there's something that you can actually enjoy and get out of it. And that kind of helps you bear through the moments where you feel uncomfortable. But then, most of it is not difficult. It's just finding the enjoyment in what you're doing.
I gotta be honest with you, when I started medical school, in the very first semester, I contemplated dropping out because I just didn't think, A, I could cut it, or B, that I could survive it. Medical school is very intense, and I needed a lot of sleep, and all of a sudden I wasn't able to get that sleep. So for a good period of time, that first semester, August to December, I almost went home in December for Christmas break and never went back. So there's some resiliency that is required, but the support system that you surround yourself with, family, friends, mentors, peers, is invaluable in surviving, to use that word, the journey to achieving your goals. Another question.
I have one.
Great question. Go right ahead.
So what kind of fun do you guys have?
What
Because
kind of
we
fun?
talk a lot about
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
and the work
Work is
ethic,
fun.
what is the benefit not going to a lot? What type of travel do you guys do? Vacations? Like, it's positive.
So I'm gonna answer the listeners right now. So we live in Florida. I don't have a boat. I don't and I don't play tennis. What do I do for fun? I run like a bandit, and I spend quality time with my family. I have 3 children. They're in their 20s, early 30s. But when they were young, I spent time, much like Audrey, with my family, nurturing them, so that at the end of the day, when I'm gone, I will have guided 3 very special people in the world. So that's what I do. Not very exciting from most people's perspective, but it suits me just fine. I'm happy, right? I don't try to be happier than happy. Go.
So one thing about residency too is you work more usually in residency than you will in attending. So these guys work more than me, and then as you go up, you get to work less, and then when you're attending, you work even less. You can work more if you want to make more money. So right now we work a lot, so we don't have a ton of time, but we have more time than other specialties. Surgeons can work 100 hours a week. You know, we probably work 60. For fun, I mean, I go visit my family back in Idaho when I can. I have a dog. I, run, walk her. I have friends in New York, kind of all over. I go travel when I can. But honestly, I haven't really done a lot of traveling since starting residency. I used to travel in college a lot, go over to Europe and Asia, but haven't done that in a while. But now, I mean, just a simple thing for fun, just because we kind of do work a lot.
There is something I will say around that, is that you do sacrifice to get to this position. You do sacrifice your 20s a bit socially. But the reward comes when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, right? You have more opportunities to enjoy things that perhaps are more long-lasting than the stuff that we all wanted to do in our 20s.
I did a mission trip to Honduras. Also, I went to El Salvador. I went to Turkey not too long ago, a couple months ago. And before, like a couple years ago, I went to Israel. And we do a lot of different excursions, going to New York, Pennsylvania. I'm going to go to Gatlinburg this weekend with my family. We're going to all just go up there, go to Winterfest. We just like to travel. I like to, there's the little things too, not just traveling, but like spending time with my in-laws. I like playing my father on chess every chance I get. I might do that after I leave. A few things. I just enjoy my family. I'm just a family guy. Yeah.
I like to exercise, so a lot of the times after working overnights, I'll go straight to the gym before I go to bed. Sometimes I go train. I do mixed martial arts, so I'll do that, open mat. But the rest of the times I'll go home, hang out with my fiance, play with my dog. And we do have, some lunch, PTO? Yeah, so we have paid time off too, so I was recently in Puerto Rico on vacation there. It was very nice.
There is a sacrifice to it at this stage, but the reward comes later. Somebody up here had a question. Anthony, go. What is what? What is something you wish you knew before you went to medical school that you know now? Right? Go. I can tell you, for me, I wish I had read that book about how to learn. I did not know how to learn. I spent a lot of time, but it was a lot of quantity studying, but not a lot of quality. I wish someone had taught me how to study, because I had no idea. And now that I am responsible for teaching, it has become a passion of mine, and I love reading about how and the why around learning. So for me, that's the biggest thing for me. And that's probably why I didn't enjoy medical school, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was like fish out of water, right? I really was.
I wish I knew Christ before medical school. I had a lot of smarts and not enough wisdom. I have to just, a lot of situations I could have avoided or changed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. The sins of youth. I like to say this. The sins of youth are visited upon the aged. Sometimes the mistakes and the activities that we get involved with when we're younger will affect us when we're older in lots of different domains. So, in a way, maybe having less freedom when you're 20, 25, could be a good thing. Anything else?
What was it? Wish we knew before.
What do you wish you knew before that you know now? Kind of. Before medical school.
I
Yeah,
wish
yeah.
I wouldn't have stressed out so much during medical school. They put a lot of pressure on certain tests. You take 2 tests in med school that are super big, and in my mind, if I didn't do good on these tests, I was never gonna, you know, be a surgeon or be a certain doctor that I wanted to be. And I mean, they're important, but I stressed to the point where it was just consuming me in medical school, and it really affected a lot of going back to the mental health part. Like, I was just super, super stressed, and I didn't need to be that stressed because it all worked out. So I wish I would. I mean, it's important, and you know, you try your hardest, but it's just a test.
I think what I would have liked to know before medical school that I know now is, I think the only thing that really stops you from doing what you want is if you're afraid of it. So being willing to conquer whatever you're afraid of, likely, you know, I think that's all.
He's sleep deprived, so he's speaking very softly, but overcoming your own internal fears. Very similar to the experience I had in medical school.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, and I can't
Somebody
say.
back here had a question. Go. Come on, Chris. Yeah. Is that $400,000 in debt because of medical school?
Yes. Wait, what was the question?
Is your debt?
Yeah. So I went to undergrad in Idaho State, which college is pretty cheap then, and I got, you know, partial scholarships. And I worked full time in college, so I was able to pay my undergrad loans. Med school, you can't work. You're so busy with school that, you know, you wouldn't want to anyways. So you had to take out loans for living. I had to take out loans for school. So yeah, I'm in about $396,000 in debt because I had to pay for my apartment, pay for everything, which is on the higher end, but it's honestly pretty average. But I mean, yeah, there are other schools that can be lower to like 200, 150,000 if they're more state schools. But yeah, mine was a private school, a little more expensive. But I think, you know, if I make $400,000 in a year and I live pretty minimal, I can pay that off fairly quickly.
There is a barrier to entry, seriously, but you'll be able to pay it off eventually, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. I did, in fact, when I went to medical school, 80 to 84, 84 to 88, it wasn't nearly as expensive. But everything, somebody. So, what do we do in medical school? Do we do surgery? How is it divided up?
So medical school is split into two sections. Think of it this way. Learning and then more of practicing and doing. So the first few years are a lot of book work. You're going to do basic sciences, you're going to relearn everything, you're going to memorize a bunch of stuff that you're going to forget later. And then you go and you take a big test. Actually, yes, you take 2 big tests. After that, you're doing a lot of work in hospitals, you're following doctors around, you're following home medical teams, you're talking with residents, and you're getting a good understanding of what their life is like, what their specialty is like, and you're learning concepts from their unique discipline, whether that's an internal medicine doctor or a surgeon or whatever. So sometimes if you're working with a surgeon, you can sit in the surgery and touch things and do things and, you know, hold this. If you're the internal medicine doctor, they'll have you talk about whatever, hey, did you read the articles that we sent you? We still do that today. But very similarly, you become whatever you're in that for that time period. And then you move on into your 4th year and you really just kind of figure out where you're going to be at that point. Talking to different places, kind of like flying, and then that's it.
Yeah, you do 2 years in the classroom and then 2 years in the hospital.
Very exciting, right? The first 2 years are in the classroom like you're doing now. The last 2 years are out in hospitals or doctor's offices doing rotations. Like the two gentlemen up there, they rotated in our emergency department with us doing emergency medicine. So you're not really doing surgery, but you are in surgery with a surgeon. And
You do surgery with them.
Contractors and stuff like that.
You do surgery with them, you deliver babies, yeah.
Yep, depending on the stuff. Yes. Go ahead. Come again? Oh, what jobs did you have in college?
Oh, me? Or anyone? I worked, so on my campus, they had a daycare, which was an early learning center. It was really nice. I could go to class for an hour, go to work for an hour, and then go to class for 2 hours, come back. So during the day, I did that, which was really nice. And then I nannied. So after, I'd go nanny for a doctor, which was nice because they wrote me a good letter of recommendation for med school. And I worked I just wanted to do physical therapy. I worked as a physical therapy tech. Some days also. I did a little bit of everything. It was all during 5 years. But physical therapy tech, can't remember what else I did.
So I worked in a pharmacy as a pharmacy, not tech, just in the pharmacy because that was still something potentially my plan B. But my father was a general contractor. So I was pouring concrete, building houses with him in the summer. I didn't really work during the academic year, but in the summers. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't a life I was going to live, wanted to live, because slinging cement, body is not made for that. Any other interesting jobs?
Okay, what did I do? Goodness. I did research, I was a tutor, I was a handyman, so not quite slinging concrete, but at very least doing basic, same kind of stuff, plumbing and repairs and stuff like that. I did background checks, I think it was anything else kind of fun. Yeah, kind of random stuff, everything, anything and everything.
What'd you do?
So for me, I grew up in a low middle class, middle income family. Didn't really have a lot, so I used to buy and sell cars and motorcycles, and then eventually got into real estate and commercial real estate. I actually own my own business now. I was actually able to pay off my medical school loans with that, which was nice. Kind of side gig now. Medicine is priority now, of course. A lot to learn from it.
You know, we're all doctors, right? And whatever your impression of what a doctor's lifestyle is like, golden spoon or whatever you want to say about it, right? You make a fair living. None of us, myself included, grew up like that. My father was a general contractor. He lived paycheck to paycheck. So I know where I came from, and that kind of informs and colors my perspective of how I want to live my life today. I'm very appreciative of the position that I worked very hard to attain, but I know it didn't come easily, and it's not how I grew up. So now my children have grown up a bit differently, but they are also pursuing a life in medicine too, and that brings me great joy.
For a spell, I was a stock clerk every weekend. I would just basically pack boxes and receive inventory and put them in the right places in the gadget store in Manhattan, called the Sharper Image. They're not in business as a brick and mortar anymore. They're online only. Yeah. And little after that, my cousin, he was a salesman at that store. I was just in the basement. He went to a Tornado time machine. It was a watch company. It sold really expensive watches. And I worked for a spell there as a salesman as well. Yeah, I didn't sell the really expensive watches. I was just selling fossils and things like that. And then at some point, I was a tutor, and that's basically amounted to what I did. My very first gig in college was helping fold all the clothes and put them in the right place at a place called Zico's Menswear. It was like a
and I had to be on the lookout, making sure no one was stealing anything either. I would stand outside. Yeah, that was a very tough job. We were working from like 9 in the morning to 9 at night. And the guy didn't believe in the game. It took me 2 weeks to get my first paycheck. So yeah, it was rough. It worked.
I saw something, no.
It's for the.
Hold on a second, let me get over there. Go ahead. Ooh, that's a great question. Was it hard starting a family in medical school?
Yes.
William,
It's very hard.
what'd you say?
Yes, it is very, very hard. However, it's really only going to work if you have an officer spouse that's really committed to what you're doing. And that's pretty much it. For me, there's no way I would have done this without my wife. Without the amount of time that she's put into, yes, my efforts, and also just being there and being present in terms of quantity of time and allowing me to take in and just be as much quality as I can.
So it's a team effort
Yeah.
when you're in that sort of a situation. You both have to be aligned with the mission, which is to get him through medical school and residency. Now, having said that, when he graduates, there's going to be some bills coming due from his wife, and I don't mean money bills. She's going to want him to be more present, right, to account for all that she gave to the relationship. And he's aware of that. He's a great father and a great husband, and he's gonna pay all those bills in full. Do you have a question? Okay. Does anybody have any idea about the debt for nursing? I'm sorry? Oh, neurosurgery. Oh, well, very similar. Medical school costs the same no matter what specialty you go to. Although neurosurgery is like a 7-8 year residency, so it's very, very long. And during that time, you're not really paying off the debt. But when you get to the end, you know, you're going to be making a bit more than most other doctors. But it's a hard residency, and it's also a challenging lifestyle. Because in the middle of the night, when a bunch of knucklehead 20-year-olds get into trouble, you're coming to save them and help us out in the emergency department, because that's where a lot of knuckleheads that are age 20 end up after midnight. Nothing good happens after midnight. I'm just telling you from an emergency doctor perspective. Anybody else? Who else? Go. That's a great question too. How do you get used to seeing the gore that we see day in and day out? Well, that's what we're wrong. Desensitization. So you can't rise and fall with every single patient that you see. You'll be an emotional wreck, like Dr. Munkers was saying earlier. So there is a certain front that you have to portray. Not that you don't feel it, right? So I'm not getting too graphic. Sometimes you have very young kids come in, and it doesn't turn out well. The staff is crying. Everyone's crying. Everyone's emotional. So we try to do what we call a debrief. Everybody huddles around. We share our emotions, realizing, though, that there's still patients coming in that want our direct attention, right? So there is a certain amount during the shift that you have to put up a little bit of an emotional wall. Not completely, because we're all human, and bad stuff does happen, and we're still human. And that patient, be it old or young, can remind us of someone that's dear to us, right? Or bring back another memory. So in real time, it's challenging, but you have to be present for that patient as well as the next patient. And so there is time to debrief, usually after the event. But yeah, that's a real deal. Anybody else?
My brain is weird. I don't know. I don't get too weirded out with that kind of stuff. Maybe it's all the crazy. Well, maybe it's all the crazy movies that my parents had me see as a kid. I don't know. But for me, I don't get grotesque out as much as most people would causes probably, and I have a tendency of compartmentalizing things, and I try not to bring it home with me. It's just something as a matter of fact. My thing is certain smells. Certain smells are just horrible. But like sight for me, it doesn't really get me that bad. Yeah.
So I'll share a real personal experience. Years ago, before I knew these folks at another hospital, a young lady, 18, 20, came in and it didn't turn out well. And she reminded me of someone, my child, and I just broke down in tears. And I walked, it was the end of my shift, so I could do this. I wasn't responsible. She was my last patient of the day. And I walked out crying hysterically, called my wife. She was a pediatrician, so there is that built-in knowledge that she had. That she could help talk me off the ledge, so to speak. But yeah, it happens. Bad stuff happens in the emergency department. Bad stuff happens all over the place in medicine. But I had a resource, like we talked about earlier, right? You have your resources for well-being. My resource is always my wife. And she was able to talk me through it. It lingered for days. And then at some point I tucked it away. I tell the story all the time. And that's part of the grieving process. Telling you that story right now helps me heal from that day. Believe it or not. And that was a long time ago. Yes? These are great questions. I don't know what foods are keeping them with. How do you feel, how has it become easier to retain the knowledge all along, all these 12 years, or however long?
Repetition.
What'd you say? Repetition. Seeing it over and over again.
The emotional tie between learning something and retaining it, remembering it.
One of the benefits that we have as clinicians is that you can tie, just like what Dr. Williams said, a patient encounter, a patient experience, to either an emotional connection, a sensory connection, smell, that sticks with you.
But I remember one time, I saw this one girl, and I believe she may have overdosed. I suspect that that's what happened because she had a similar event before. And she was seizing. She came to the ER, she was just seizing, and then it just persisted, and we couldn't really break it. And at some point, her heart stopped. Her heart rate went to like 30, and then it just stopped altogether. She wasn't pumping blood. So we started CPR like right away. We saw it, we started CPR. She wasn't down for more than, let's say, 8 or 9 minutes tops, and she was young. And even when she was on the tube and in the machine, and we got her back, she was having purposeful movements. I was like, okay, great, yeah, we got her back. That's awesome. And I felt so good. And I was like, I went home, I was like, yeah, you know, we saved a life, this and that. And then, you know, just out of curiosity, I called Dad like 4 days later, just to see, you know, expecting to hear some great things. And he said she was brain dead. And that they basically were going to pull the plug like in the next hour. And that really struck me. I really felt, I've cried. I don't cry. Typically, there's like a few times in my life I cried. That was one time I cried. I was in my car, I remember talking to him, and I don't think I could even hang up. It was really, I was kind of like choked up by it. Sure. Because it's one of those things where you're expecting a great outcome, and you end up getting the opposite. And that's true of so many people. Like, there was a guy, he was like, what, younger than me. He was with his family. He starts choking, his face turns purple, after he was complaining of acid reflux, right? Like heartburn. He had a heart attack. He basically just died right there, and I could see the wife and what was going on. If you focus on the death and all the bad things, it's really depressing. I, for one, believe we're all eternal. We're going to live forever. And that kind of, despite dying here on earth, you can determine where you're going to go based on who you put your trust in. But for me, that's kind of, my faith is what keeps me going and what keeps me positive. Because otherwise, you know, we're all just going to get sick and die. I mean, that's what I see every day at work. That's basically the truth of the matter here on earth. But there's more than just this. Okay.
So the question, there's a student back there that wants to do neurology, and he asked if we had any tips about neurology. I would say two things. Find out what a neurologist does, and if you can shadow a neurologist. As an example for me, when I said I wanted to become a doctor in my head, I really had no idea what doctor was. It wasn't until I got into medical school and did my rotation, third or fourth year, that I actually started to figure out what actually a doctor did. So you think you know, but you probably don't know. So figure it out and shadow somebody and just be the best student that you can be up until the time comes for you to decide what it is you want to do, because it might be something completely different. So the question was how, okay, this is going to be the last question. Sorry, they're all really great questions, but the question is how are the residents evaluated? So they do rotations every month. So at the end of every month, one of us, faculty, fills out a form evaluating them. But then we do what's called a 360 evaluation, where we get a whole bunch of other people, nursing staff, patients, other residents, right? They all evaluate each other. And that's at the end of every single month, because it's a different rotation every month. And then they evaluate us as well. That's the only way to improve. I think I'm great, right? Not really, but if I thought I was great, they may not think the same thing. Or they may think that I'm good at something, but I could do a better job at something else. It's a two-way street. It's their residency. We just administrate it. It's learner-centered. So they evaluate us, we evaluate them. I think, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I do appreciate your attention and your questions. They were some rock-solid questions.
They're awesome.
Whatever you're doing, Dr. Robinson, keep on doing it, because you got a bunch of great students
It's
here.
the teachers. I want to commend the teachers. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Study hard, guys.